I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and part 2 of a dogfight battle between the One VX and the One X Plus starts in just a second. But first, special thanks to our partners at Best Buy Mobile for giving us devices like this and more for use in our One Paw Bandit giveaway game. It's like a device handoff. When you walk into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. They'll help you set up your email, your contacts, your web settings, and more. So when you go out the door, you got your One VX or your One X Plus set up. Let's take a look. Part 2, 2 awesome Android phones, starts right now. Part 2 of a dogfight battle, and really when you think of dogfights in the past, what we've done is kind of compare two similar devices. It's very clear who the winner is here from a specs perspective. The One X Plus is the one that wins it. It's got a 1.7 gigahertz quad-core NVIDIA Tegra 3 processor, a 4.7-inch HD display, an 8-megapixel camera, Android 4.1, and more. HTC Sense 4 Plus, 4G LTE, all that good stuff. It's way ahead of the One VX, but then again, this is $200. This is only $49. So keep in mind the price point. What we're trying to decide in this dogfight is which one is worth the bang for the buck. Is it this? Is it this? We'll figure it out right now. Let's take a look at the One X Plus versus the One VX. Let's start with some quadrant standard scores. We'll load up quadrant standard on both of these devices so you can take a look at some of the speed test differences and kind of see the difference between a quad-core device and a dual-core device. At that. Call quality has been great on both of these devices, and I've found that battery life has been surprisingly decent on both of these units as well. Over here, you've got a nice 2,100 milliamp hour battery. Over here, 1,810 milliamp hour battery, both of which are non-removable. What you do get over here is 64 gigabytes of internal storage. You only get 8 over here, but you get an expandable micro SD card slot on the One VX. If you do want to add that storage later, you can add at least a little bit of that up to 32 gigabytes. So you do get that option. This is non-removable, but you get a ton of storage space out of the box. And comparing this to the iPhone 5, for example, $399 for a 64 gigabyte model, $199 for the One X Plus, you can really see that there's a good deal to be had right there. So pretty impressed with the specs of the One X. The only thing I don't like about this is it has 1 gigabyte of RAM as opposed to 2, and you can tell with a device like the Droid DNA, which actually has the 2 gigabytes of RAM, it's a noticeable speed difference because honestly, even in its census status right now, it's still very much a memory hog. So keep that in mind. Over here, you've got 5,186. So 7,299, 5,186 over here. And we'll take a look at AT&T's 4G LTE connectivity in the in the Dallas metro area as well. Speed test over on both of these devices. And we'll load it up, make sure we're on Dallas servers. Begin test, and we'll load it up. Now the Dallas metro area, I've found speeds to be between about 12 to 25 megabits per second depending on the time of the day. We're seeing a little bit of a slower speed for whatever reason over on the One X Plus, but what we're seeing over here is more on par with what I see on a regular basis with AT&T, about 13 to 14.5 megabits per second, nice and fast over there. And you've got 6.09 megabits per second over here. Upload 15.78, 14.34. So fast all around. Just that said, these particular tests were a little bit different despite the fact that they're both in the same area. Let's also take a look at the cameras here because I want to see if there's a huge difference to the eye when it comes to the 8 megapixel shooter versus the 5 megapixel shooter. Now you get very similar stuff across the board on both of these devices. You get some cool features like burst mode, and so I shoved the pin across, and you can see, I'm sure at some point, the pin right there, and you can see it kind of made its way across the screen, shoved, and it was right there, and then boom, it was away. Again, so burst mode's great when you're at like a golf game or when you're at a soccer game or a football game. Got the same option over here as well, along with the ability to snap some video pictures or some pictures while shooting video and more. Then you got settings over here, full HD, review duration, ISO, white balance, and more. And then camera options, video options, all that good stuff out of the box over here, and you got that over on the One VX as well over here. So obviously, a little bit of difference when it comes to customization and personalization and things like that. And you do see it, like I said, between Android 4.1 and Android 4.0. And some other things I'll point out. ME Infiltrator really highlights the NVIDIA Tegra 3's processor. Let's take a look here and see what it looks like. I've been really impressed with this game, the overall performance of the quad-core NVIDIA Tegra 3. And you'll see it load up right now. Pretty cool. And let's see here. Let's play. I just want to show you the graphics. We're going to resume this. And there it comes right now. Bam. And you can see the graphics are absolutely beautiful on this device. So that quad-core processor really performs well. That said, it is a little bit of a power hog, so if you're playing those games, you're using stuff with the graphics on a regular basis, expect it to be a little bit of a battery hog. Your battery's not going to last nearly as long as you would expect it to, so that's something to keep in mind when you're working with these two devices. The One VX, obviously a lower clocked processor, great for everyday use. I've really experienced no lag on this device all around. It's nice and fast in day-to-day tasks. Text messaging is nice and fast, but you do lose some of that ability that you get over here to personalize. Like I said, widget setup still very much similar across the board between Android 4.1 and Android 4.0. Same option here for your all widgets and more. So pretty simple performance across the board. Is it worth the extra money to get the One X Plus? Well, it depends on what you do. Do I think it's worth the extra money? No, I actually don't. I think you could pay 50 bucks and be perfectly fine with the One VX. That said, it depends on who you are. If I were recommending this to an average consumer, they said, should I spend 50 or should I spend 200? I'd say, nah, get away with the 50 bucks. Get the One VX. If I'm recommending it to somebody in the industry or a colleague or somebody that's a techie or somebody that needs that storage space, this is a great bang for the buck. So HTC's really rocking it in 2012 with some great handsets. That said, I think for a lot of people, the One VX is going to be more than enough for that day-to-day use when it comes to email, text messaging, things like that. That's not to say that this doesn't have some killer features. The camera's awesome, the battery's good, 4G LTE connectivity's great, the processor's fantastic, and most importantly, 64 gigs of internal storage is just awesome on a device that's $199. That said, I think you can get away with this one for $50 and really find that you get a brunt of that power for a cheaper price. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for continuing coverage of all of these devices and more. Follow us on Twitter at PhoneDog. Follow me on Twitter, Aaron C. Baker. Follow PhoneDog on Facebook at Facebook.com/PhoneDog. It's the last dogfight of 2012. Stay tuned for some awesomeness from PhoneDog, Taylor, David, and more in 2013. And as always, we'll see you next time.